Hi everyone, in today's video, it's going to be pretty quick. I'm just going to go over the economic calendar and then do an analysis based off the S&P 500 and Nasdaq, specifically the ETFs, which is the QQQ for Nasdaq and then SPY for S&P 500. First, for the economic calendar, what we have for tomorrow, we have existing home sales at 10 a.m. and we have at 2 p.m. minutes of Fed May FOMC meeting. So in my opinion, this is going to affect the markets for tomorrow, but the market is already knows the narrative of the Fed, in my opinion. The market is expecting one rate cut this year, but the Fed, even though they seem somewhat optimistic overall for the progress, they want to get to 2% inflation, but they're just basically delaying the interest rate cut to a later date. Will it be within this year? Who knows? But at the same time, for what Jerome Powell stated in the past, 2 times actually, that the next rate change, when it happens in terms of actual rate change, will be more likely to be to the downside rather than to the upside. So more likely a cut rather than an increase. And then also one thing to keep in mind that will essentially adjust the markets tomorrow, I guess, is depends on how NVIDIA moves, because it is a big market cap, 2-point-something trillion dollars, and they're reporting earnings after hours. So I don't know if necessarily the markets will move. So the markets will move around 2 p.m. during the meeting, FOMC meeting, and at the same time, closer to close, potentially NVIDIA could be doing some crazy moves before the earnings is released. And then the next day will actually be pretty drastic too. Again, depends, because if it goes to upside, downside, I think it will pretty much drag the market quite a bit. So we'll see. But at the same time, for the most part, the market's already aware of everything, I think, in terms of what the Fed is expecting to do. So I don't think too much is going to happen tomorrow. But a little bit of volatility during the 2 p.m. The volatility index keeps dropping, so volatility is dropping overall nonetheless. Now, I'm going to go over QQQ first, then I'm going to go through the SPY for the S&P 500. So again, this is for QQQ, ETF for Nasdaq. For new viewers, just in case, since 2010, right about here, upward trend resistance line, dating back since 2010, upward trend support level, stayed between the channel for the most part, and then 2020 to 2022 broke through it, but then came back down. Trapped underneath it, got knocked down, going to the upside, potentially hitting the upward trend resistance line again. Now, like I've stated in the past, because S&P 500 has a lot of room to grow to the upside before it hits the same channel, because it's almost same channel for the most part, but hasn't broken through like the Nasdaq has. Because there's room to grow for the S&P 500 and they're kind of correlated sometimes, I think it's going to break through again. But that's just my opinion, especially given how it's election year. The markets, in my opinion, tend to move favorably. And like always, by the way, I'm not a professional, so please do your own due diligence and research before buying and selling. Now, in terms of the 5-year, it's about to cross into bullish movement. I'll just show right now. The MACD line, bearish movement, but going to cross over to bullish. 1 year, it's bullish movement. So to me, it's indicating long-term is going to be to the upside. And then in terms of 6 month and 3 month and 1 month, either they're about to cross, so they should show an upside regardless. So bullish movement for the 3 month, and then bullish movement for the 1 month, but the 6 months is about to cross. So more likely tomorrow it's going to be a slow uptick, it looks like, potentially. And then by 2 p.m. we'll have volatility. And then after the FOMC meeting, I'm expecting the upside personally, just because there's not, unless the Fed does some kind of strange, like states something strange, where the market starts thinking, oh, okay, rate cuts won't happen this year, rate cuts will happen next year. So there's that. Now, if that does happen, then the markets will go down. But we'll see. Anything is possible, though. And then the thing is, too, the next day could go back up, because, again, if NVIDIA crushes earnings and it's a big market cap, it could just pretty much carry the tech sector, and then the markets go up again. But we'll see. You got to assess it day by day for the most part. So $455.80 for QQQ. And then the question is, it could pretty much go up. It's going to take some time, but the cap would be about $465, more to $465 by the time we hit it. And the problem is right now, we're at the all-time high, so there's not really new resistance levels. I should check the Fibonacci scale. Last time I checked it, it showed 458, 459 at the previous levels. So maybe it would be 460 right now by the time you adjust for it. And then in terms of moving averages to drop to the downside, we have $454.50, $453.30, and then $450.57. That 450 is quite a bit of good support / resistance, especially when it could hit the 459 and some change. But I'm expecting, for the most part, that these will hold for us. Let me see. So we have an upward trend. If it's not adjusted, Yeah, okay, so we have an upward trend resistance slash support level right about here, touch point, resistance, support, 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 multiple touch points. And if we were to drop down, which coincides with horizontal's resistance slash support level, basically if you think all is doom and gloom going past those support levels in terms of moving averages, we're hit $448 and 446, $446 to $448 range, which was a previous range too before. So $446 to $448, and then it coincides with the moving average, I guess, somewhat just underneath it of $445. So this conglomerate, even if we were to drop, let's just say the FOMC meeting is pretty bad and we drop, unless it's horrendous, which I don't expect personally, but if it's horrendous, then I don't. It would just keep dropping to the other levels. But I don't personally think it is. If it is, I'll probably post it on X or YouTube communities after on both of them. If it starts dropping like crazy, and the FOMC in terms of Fed meeting, they say something crazy. But otherwise, I don't think what would happen is we would drop to $445, the worst case scenario, and then bounce back up. Maybe possibly anticipation because of the NVIDIA carrying the markets right after, closer to the close of the day. But we'll see. I think 445 would be ultimately the lowest personally. I don't even think we're going to get there, to be honest. But if we do, that's the lowest in my opinion. Now in terms of S&P 500, looking at the SPY for a sec, I'll just show the quick channel just for the new viewers, just in case again. So dating back since 2010, same thing, upward trend resistance line, upward trend support, and then for the major crashes, upward trend support. Didn't break through it, potentially false breakout. But for what I stated for the Nasdaq side, we have a lot more room to grow due to the S&P 500 having a lot of room to the upside, right? And in this range, it was like $630 or something like that. Right now, we're at $531.36. Not necessarily meaning that we're going to go straight up. I'm just saying that we have a lot of room to the upside. And in terms of the 5-year, same thing as the Nasdaq. 5 years trying to cross over to bullish territory. The 1 year is already in the bullish territory, so long term is more to the upside. And in terms of short term, I think for today, it matches the Nasdaq as well. So the 6 month is trying to cross over to the bullish territory. The 3 month is already in the bullish territory, and then the 1 month is in the bullish territory. So more in a way, for the most part, to the upside potentially tomorrow. And because the S&P 500 tends to move quite slow, we have this upward trend resistance line right about here. This dates back pretty much when it actually has touch points in April 23rd. And we can see resistance, almost resistance there, resistance, and then resistance quite a bit here, broke through. But seems to be this but restrictive area seems to be somewhat in play. And if you account for it, I would say before the FOMC meeting fully, you're looking at, so it looks like it's going to go up to $534 before the meeting potentially. But then after the meeting, because that creates an all-time high. So then you have to look at the Fibonacci scale, and 534 with the last time I checked the Fibonacci scale, that one was $538. But the problem is that was before. So essentially, I think that 538 could act as resistance as well. But the 534 is definitely going to act as resistance. But at the same time, on to the downside, in case of anticipation of the markets and all that stuff, so on and so forth, we've been pretty much stuck with this moving average right here and that 529. So 529, 530, and then dropping down to potentially 527. I could see us going a little bit lower. But at the same time, if the Fed meeting is horrendous, like I stated for the Nasdaq, you're looking at $523. And then the next level is 518, 500. I know there's support at the 520, but it's not showing predominantly here right now. 520 and 521 will be support, but ultimately maybe 518. It depends on how bad the Fed, whatever they start saying, is horrendous, and I can see it drop down aggressively, but not that aggressive personally. I think whatever they're going to state is pretty neutral. So the lowest I would say is 523, because I don't expect anything crazy, and that's the lowest personally, 523. But more of the moving average, so 527 for tomorrow, and then maybe start moving up to the upside, closer to a close, because again, I don't expect a shock from the FOMC meeting, and then at the same time, NVIDIA carrying the rest of the day at the end of the day. So there's that. Now, after hours for tomorrow, the next day, it's hard to tell, because again, NVIDIA is going to, in my opinion, move the market. We'll see. But hope you guys liked the video. Hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks again for watching. Appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.